recording is on.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to LisaBug Yoga. And for the month of January, I'm teaching what I call Vin-Yin. V-I-N for vinyasa style, which is more of a flowing style yoga. And then the second half is yin yoga, which is longer held stretches to really move that flexibility into the muscles as well as the connective tissue, a nice relaxing second half of practice. This is an all levels class, so I want you to be sure that you're taking the modifications that work best for your body. Today for props, I have yoga blocks as an option. I also have a chair as an option to support for things like balance poses. I have a yoga strap and of course my mat as well. Sometimes you might need a little blanket too for support on some of the poses. Today we are going to focus on open hip poses. And what I mean by open hip, so an example of that would be our warrior one pose, which is here, is a closed hip pose. So I have my legs are following the same alignment of my pelvis as when I am walking. If I move this out into warrior two, where I pull this knee out to the side, this is an open hip pose, where I have my pelvis this direction, but I have my thigh out to the side. So today's focus will be open hip poses, and you are going to do those to your flexibility level. So I want you to stay within that range where you don't feel any pain in your hips, just nice and gentle stretching. So let's start at the top of your mat, and I have my chair that direction as an option to use. And come into mountain pose. Maybe close your eyes for a moment and begin to focus on your breathing. And to bring yourself into the present, into this place, removing any distractions, spirit, mind, or body. We bring our awareness internally to the 3 B's, the breath, the brain, and the body. As you breathe in, allow your belly to expand outward to accommodate that breath. And as you breathe out and exhale, the belly flattens and gently draws in toward the backbone. Then on our vinyasa style yoga, we unite the movement of the body with the flow of the breath. So on your next inhale, just sweep your arms forward and up. And exhale, pull them down and slightly back behind you. And you let the movement of your breath designate the flow and the movement of the body. So as you reach up, however long it takes you to breathe in, keep moving. And however long it takes you to breathe out, move the arms behind you. And I just want you to check in with your shoulders here. And maybe today for you, you're not completely reaching above the head. Might feel better to come about 3/4 of the way up. So just find a range of motion that feels pleasant. And as you come back behind, same thing. If you feel any pain in your shoulders, maybe you're just coming back a little bit, squeezing those shoulder blades. And let's take 2 more breaths. And 1 more, breathe in. And breathe out, holding those arms behind you into a nice chest expansion. Find the strength of your upper back and broaden through the fronts of your shoulders. And then we'll inhale, sweep the arms up, soften the knees, exhale, and come forward into a half forward bend. So I'm going to bring my hands either to my shins or to the top of my chair. If you're using that, it's a nice option. And then inhale, rise. Exhale, soften the knees, half forward fold. What I'd like you to think about is a neutral spine here as we fold. So we're not rounding the back, but we're hinging from our hips and we're warming up at the hip joint itself. As you come up, gently squeeze your glutes. And as you come down, elongate through the glutes and the hamstrings. Now, once you've taken a few of these in half lift, if you'd like to come all the way down to a full forward fold, inhale and exhale, bringing the fingertips further down, maybe to your blocks or to the mat. And we're checking in with our lower back, keeping the abdominals gently braced as we fold. And let's take one more breath in. And come down into that forward fold, either your half lift or all the way down. And I'd like to hold for a few breaths here. You can clasp your opposite elbows and hang in ragdoll. You can use your chair to support or your blocks. Knees can be bent a generous amount or lengthen them nice and straight. Pull the abdominals in as you're breathing. 2 more breaths. And then inhale back up to lengthen. Press the palms and draw thumbs to your heart center. Let's step the right foot back into warrior 2. So I'm going to take a nice generous step back and open out and lengthen through the fingertips. So this is our first open hip pose. So we're paying special attention to this the left leg facing the camera. It looks like you're right. Let's take a nice side bend over, lengthen. And then pull just back up to your warrior 2. And with the breath, inhale and exhale. So we're staying nice and stable into the lower body in that open hip pose. And I'd like for you to find the glute muscle out here on the bent knee side to keep drawing that knee toward the pinky toe side of your foot. We'll take 2 more repetitions. And last one. And holding the warrior 2, slowly straighten out your front leg. And reach out long toward the front top edge of your mat, coming into triangle pose, Trikonasana. Now we can gently place the fingertips on the shin. You can also place your hands on your chair or onto a block. Top hand does not have to reach up. You can wrap that hand either to your hip or behind your back. And let's revolve this top shoulder back to the back wall, pulling the top ribs back and the bottom ribs forward. And this is our open hip pose. We've got nice lateral flexion of the spine, a little bit of a stretch in that front hamstring. 2 more breaths. And then we'll slightly soften that front knee to rise back up to warrior 2. Pull the palms into the heart center. We'll rotate back toward the front of your mat and step back to mountain pose. Might take a couple of little small steps to get there. And then we'll step the left foot back and open out into warrior 2. So it might take you a couple of breaths to really get situated in that pose and check to make sure the front knee is stacking right over the heel, the ankle. Our open hip pose, we'll take a nice inhale into a side angle pose. Stretch through the lats and the waistline. Exhale and just come back up to warrior 2. So we'll restack shoulders over hips. And inhale, lengthen. And exhale to rise up. Now imagine that your shoulder blades are sliding along an imaginary wall behind your body. So we want to avoid bending over at the waist, and we want to avoid twisting here, just moving through lateral flexion of the spine. Inhale and exhale. Let's take one more on this side. And once you've risen to your warrior two, slowly straighten out that front leg. Now make sure you're not locking this knee. You have a little micro bend, and then reach out nice and long, side bend into Trikonasana, our triangle pose. A nice open hip pose. Top hand can wrap behind the back or place at the hip, and we'll roll that top shoulder backward. The bottom ribs come forward and underneath. Our gaze can look up to the ceiling, or you can also look down toward that big toe on the front leg. And we're firing our glutes, firing our inner thighs. So we're really strong here through this pose. 2 more breaths. And then soften that front knee, rising back up to your warrior two. Place palms at the heart center. Start to rotate your body toward the top of your mat and step that back foot forward. You might need to take 1 or 2 steps to reach your mountain pose. And then we'll inhale, sweep the arms out and up. Exhale, lengthen, coming back into forward bend. And just notice how your forward fold feels now in relationship to that first one of the morning. After we've done our triangle pose, we should feel a little bit more elongated through the back side of the body, through that posterior chain. 2 more breaths. Relax the head, neck, and shoulders. And then releasing the hands, inhale, rise back up. Exhale, press palms to heart center. We'll step the right foot back into a short stance warrior two. So as I turn out, I'm just going to take a small step, so I don't have such a wide stance between my feet. As we prepare for our half moon balance pose, and this is an open hip pose, I'm using my chair today as assistance. So we'll reach out and place the front hand onto the chair, lift the back leg up off the floor any amount, and hold our balance pose. The chair is really nice for this because it's at a height that we can manage. We can also place our hand further down to a block, or we can even float that hand off the floor to really challenge the balance. So it's the supporting leg that's in the open hip pose position. The floating leg is in the closed hip position. So we have our knee in alignment with our hip and our toes and feet as well. Let's take 2 more breaths. One more breath in. And then we'll slightly bend that knee as we exhale, bringing the foot back down to that short stance warrior two, and hold. From here, let's take a gentle reverse warrior, reaching up, take our gaze to the sky. And then come back up, short stance warrior two, press the palms at your heart, turn toward the top of your mat, and step forward into mountain. As we reverse, then the left foot steps back, a short stance warrior two. So we face our torso toward the long edge of the mat and reach out. And if you're using your chair, start to reach down to that prop. You're bending the front knee a little deeper, lifting up off the back foot to balance. Now it's a little bit more difficult to take our gaze up to the top hand. So if you're struggling with balance a little bit, look down toward the bottom hand, the one that's supporting you on your chair or your prop. Or we can turn the gaze toward the wall, a little bit more difficult, or bringing it up toward that top hand, more difficult yet. And then find your core as you stabilize through the midsection and breathe. Inhaling and exhaling. 2 more breaths. On that second exhalation, start to bend the standing leg just a little bit. Lower the floating leg down to the floor. Short stance warrior 2. Then turn your front palm up and reverse warrior, sun warrior. Still an open hip pose for us. 1 more breath. And back to warrior 2. Press the palms together at your heart. Turn your chest forward toward the top of the mat and step back into mountain pose. So we are going to come down into a downward facing dog, and I'd like to give you the option to use your chair today. So let's inhale, sweep the arms up. Exhale and swan dive down until your hands are either onto your chair or moving all the way down to your mat, and we'll step our feet back into down dog. So for those of you who have wrist issues, down dog on the chair is just absolutely phenomenal. There's not that much support on the wrists. We get a great stretch through the lats and through the upper back. Not a lot of pressure onto our shoulders, and we can still lengthen the back of the legs. If we're down onto the mat, we're pressing away from the hands, really opening up the armpits. And let's hold here 3 more breaths. Inhale and exhale. And 2. And 1 more breath. Oh, someone's coming over to say hello. You want to go over somewhere else? I can teach. This is Trico. And then we'll glide forward and step the feet back toward the hands, coming back into your forward bend. Inhale, reach all the way up, nice stretch. Press the palms and exhale, hands to heart center. So we'll flow through our sun salutation A. If you'd like to use your chair for down dog, you can also use that for plank. Make sure that it is connected to your mat so that it doesn't slide forward on the floor. Take a nice big inhale up. Exhale down into your forward bend. Inhale, halfway lift. Fingertips slide up the shins or place on your chair. Exhale, fold and step back to your downward facing dog. So I'll demonstrate the first round here using my chair. 2 breaths here in down dog. And then from down dog, inhale and glide forward to plank. So if you're on your mat, you can come to your knees or from your toes. If you're on your chair, you're just coming to a plank here where you have your shoulders over your wrists. And then we'll move through chaturanga by bending the elbows any amount. And then lift the heart forward. If you're using your chair, you're coming into our up dog here, or you can lift into baby cobra or up dog onto the mat. And then we'll press back into that downward facing dog by lifting the hips, dropping the heels down toward the mat. And then we'll gaze toward the top of the mat and walk or jump the feet back into your forward bend. Inhale to halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise all the way back up. Reach through the fingertips. Press the palms and exhale into Samastihi, our balanced tension. And moving again through your own sun salutation. Inhale, reach. Exhale, fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold, and using your chair or the mat, step back to downward facing dog. Really lift those hips nicely. 2 more breaths. Broaden through your shoulder blades. And then inhale to your plank. So whether or not you're using your chair or the floor, make sure shoulders are over wrists. You can drop to those knees. And then keeping the elbows squeezing into the waist, coming through chaturanga, we'll lower ourselves down any amount. Then either press up into upward facing dog. You can have your knees on the mat, your knees lifted, or take a gentle baby cobra with your belly on the mat, drawing those shoulder blades back. So many options for everyone to find that works just right for you. And then we'll press back to your downward facing dog. You can come to your knees first, tuck those toes, lift the hips up, drop heels down toward the mat. Really stretch. And then gazing to the top of the mat, take as many steps as you need to walk back into your forward bend. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale and fold. Inhale, rise back up. Press palms and exhale at heart center. So flowing now through Sun Salutation B, instead of using our Warrior 1, which we usually do, which is a closed hip pose, we will use Warrior 2 as we flow through Sun Salutation B, our hip opener, our open hip pose. And with Warrior, or with our Sun Salutation B, we inhale, reach up, exhale into chair. So sit the hips back and down toward the mat. Palms can be pressed at the heart or arms reaching forward. Inhale, back up. Exhale, dive down into your forward bend. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold, and walk yourself back to that down dog. And remember, you can use the chair for wrist issues, shoulder issues as well. Now we have 3 half-series vinyasas in our Sun Salutation B. So using the method that you enjoy, we'll inhale to plank. Exhale to lower down, chaturanga. Inhale to extend the spine, cobra or upward facing dog. And exhale to press back into your downward facing dog. Now we'll inhale the right leg up. You can also do this while you're using your chair. Exhale, take a nice step forward toward the top of your mat. Plant your back foot down to the floor on an angle and rise up to our open hip pose, Warrior 2. And we'll gaze out toward those front fingertips. Hold nice and steady and breathe. And then we'll clasp the hands either behind the back or bring the hands to the hips and pull the shoulder blades back. So we've got a nice chest expansion here in our Warrior 2 to open up through the fronts of the shoulders. And focus on this front knee. Sometimes it wants to collapse inward, so really pull it back by firing the glute and the outer thigh. And then release the clasp of the hands. Gazing toward the top of your mat, we'll prepare for our second half-series vinyasa. So we'll reach down to the floor or to your chair. Step back to downward facing dog. Inhale forward to plank. Bend those knee or elbows any amount, chaturanga. Then extend the spine into cobra or up dog. I love the chair option. Press yourself back to that downward facing dog and stretch. Now preparing for our other side with Warrior 2, we'll lift the left leg up, Take a step forward toward the top of the mat. The back leg, the foot turns out about 90 degrees as we rise up to our warrior two. So we find the knees stacking over the ankle, shoulder blades are down. If you're not sure if you're shrugging your shoulder blades, go ahead and lift them up for a second. Notice how that feels, and then press them as far away as you can to elongate your neck. Reach hands behind your back, come into chest expansion, pull the shoulder blades back. But as you do, try not to let go of this core connection. So keep the abdominals fully engaged. One more breath. Release the hands out, gazing toward that top edge of your mat. We have one more half series vinyasa. Reach the hands down either to your chair or to the floor. Push back to downward facing dog. Inhale as you glide forward to plank. From the knees or toes or on your chair, bend your elbows any amount, lowering down. Extending the spine into cobra or upward facing dog. And pressing back into your down dog one last time. Drop those heels evenly into the mat. And then take as many steps as you need or a little jump to reach the top of your mat. Back into your forward bend. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale and fold. Inhale, rise back up. Urdhva Hastasana, upward salute. Press the palms of hands together, drop thumbs into the heart. Samastihi, balance tension. And relax your arms next to the sides of your body where we began our practice today. Close your eyes for a moment. Come inside, experiencing the beauty of your practice. The beauty of the breath. The connection of the breath, the brain, and the body. And then we'll blink our eyes open as we prepare for our yin practice. You will need your yoga strap, and our open hip pose in yin today is going to be butterfly and half butterfly. So you also might need to have a little bit of a support from a block or a blanket and come down to a seated position. I've got a timer here, so I'm going to time our yin poses. We typically hold them for a minimum of 2.5 minutes, and today we're going to hold for a minimum of 3. If you're watching this practice later on YouTube and you want to hold longer than that, I would encourage you to press pause during the poses and hold these as long as you'd like. So with our half butterfly, I'd like to start with the right leg bent and the left leg extended long. And then just notice this right leg, this is your open hip. The extended leg is the closed hip. If this leg is floating up off the mat, you might need to take a little bit of a support, maybe a blanket, and just fold it underneath so you feel that you have some support. You can still stretch here, but the leg isn't hanging in space. When it's hanging in space, these muscles want to tense and tighten up. So support it if you can. A block is a nice tool for that as well. And then we align our hips forward towards the closed hip side, and we allow this bent knee to open out and relax. Using our yoga strap as a prop, you can reach that out toward the extended leg, pulling the toes back toward you to lengthen. Inhale and exhale and fold. So I'm starting our 3 minutes, and I want you to feel comfortable in this 3 minutes. So you're choosing an intensity that you can stay with for 3 minutes long. So this doesn't have to be really intense, a super intense stretch. I want you to be able to relax and to breathe. And then we focus on really the rules of Yin Yoga, the principles of Yin Yoga. So we want to take that stretch and find our edge. And the edge that we can relax into, we find the breath. And then if possible, we remain still. And that's not to say that you can't fidget around a little bit and find a more comfortable position, but as much as possible, remain still and remain focused internally. Try not to let the mind wander and allow your thoughts to get away from you. So we're staying fully focused in this present moment. And we allow the exhalation of every breath to be slow, long, to help us to release into the muscles and into the connective tissue. Now, if you're feeling any pain at all and you need to come out of that stretch sooner, I want you to feel free to either come up and take a little break for a breath or two, recheck in, see how you're doing, and then come back into the pose. But you can come into another position entirely if it's not feeling okay for your body. So we have two efforts that we're feeling here, and that's a stretch behind the straightened leg in our hamstring, and then a release in the hip and inner thigh on the bent knee. I also generally feel some lower back stretch. So check in with your lumbar spine, make sure this is feeling fine for you. Inhaling and exhaling. I'm seeing your message, Vance. Let's see. I'll see if I can chat with you about this after class, Vance, and talk to you about the password. All right, let's see where we are on our time here. Just one more breath. Inhale. And exhale, slowly release and rise. Now it's important not to jump right into the second side. I want you to take a moment and close your eyes and just notice how you're feeling after having stretched. And we feel certain sensations in our body, and as soon as we stop the stretch, our body starts releasing those sensations and we begin to return to a normal feeling. It takes a couple of breaths. And then when you feel you're ready, begin to set yourself up on the other side. So I'm bringing my blanket over to the opposite side, extending the right leg to straight, and bending the left knee, bringing the sole of the foot to the inner thigh, and just let this leg relax and open up. There might be a big difference from one side to the other, so you may need a little bit more prop or a little bit less. And then find your strap. Loop it under the ball of the foot. Give it a gentle pull back. Inhale to prepare. And exhale, we fold. Now restart our 3-minute timer so we can have a nice balanced position here with our stretch from the right side to the left. So just begin to notice what you're feeling different between the right and left side. Notice what you're feeling as you're breathing with slow exhalations. And whenever our body is folded forward, kind of prevents us from taking a big breath into the belly. Our belly's a little bit compromised here. So we find the breath in the back side of the rib cage. So as you inhale, allow the back ribs to expand and fill that space with the breath. And just check to make sure that you're not tensing anywhere in your body. We're trying to relax completely here in our yin pose. And oftentimes we find that we're clenching our jaw, or maybe we're scrunching up our eyebrows or hunching the shoulders up. So let everything go and relax. And then really listen to what your body is telling you. And if it is telling you to come out of the pose, something's hurting, something's not feeling right, then listen and rise up out of that pose. And then slowly come back into a more comfortable place. And we have 1 minute remaining on this side. And really try to slow down the exhalation. So if our breath is rapid and fast, it usually means that we are slightly in the side of our nervous system that's the fight or flight side of our nervous system. So we want to slow down the breath to bring us into that rest and restore side. Our heart rate slows, our blood pressure drops, and there's hormones that increase our heart rate are dissipated in our body. Epinephrine, norepinephrine, adrenaline, those begin to dissipate. Let's take one more breath, inhale. And exhale, releasing that 3-minute stretch. Rise up, close your eyes for a moment, and just check in. For me here, I felt a greater stretch and more lengthening on the right side of my upper back. So just notice what you're feeling. And then we'll come into full butterfly. So for just a second though, straighten out that bent knee. And we just want to loosen up that joint a little bit before we come into both knees bent. You might need props on both sides to support your knees. So I have 2 blocks I'm going to use on either side. So we'll bring the soles of the feet together, allow the knees to open, and lengthen the spine. So for some of you, this might be enough stretch just to stay upright and remain here. And if that's the case and you can back up against a wall, that will give you something to relax against so that you can really let go into the stretch. Otherwise, we can fold forward any amount. So inhale to prepare, lengthen the spine, exhale and lead with the abdominals as you fold forward. And we'll begin our 3 minutes timer here in our full butterfly. And we check in, notice what you're feeling. Is the stretch in the inner thighs, in the glutes, in the lower back, as both knees are in our open hip position. Now sometimes when we're folding forward and our head is not supported, we can tense through the upper back, neck, and shoulders. So another option is to support your head in this position. So I'm going to take my blanket, fold it a couple times on my feet, bring my elbows on top of the blanket, and then just relax my forehead into my hands. Now sometimes after we've held a pose for a minute, minute and a half, you might no longer need your props that are supporting your body, or you can lower them down. So I have my blocks on the medium height. I might be able to lower them down to a lower height. and then come back into that stretch. Bring your awareness back to the breath, those slow, deep inhalations with even slower exhalations. Sometimes known as the sinking breath. We exhale twice as long as we inhale. And we have 1 minute remaining here in our butterfly. You'll notice oftentimes different terminology in yin practice. So in classical yoga, this is Trikonasana, our bound angle pose, in a yin practice known as butterfly. And with the last 30 seconds, maybe you can sink just a little bit deeper, find a new edge. And 2 more breaths. And then we'll slowly rise up from that pose. Close your eyes briefly just to check in. Noticing the sensations, those physical benefits of the pose. And then one more seated stretch here. We'll move from butterfly into dragonfly. So we can remove those props from the outside of the knees and then unfold our legs so that they're extending into a wide leg stretch. Now, if knees or if hamstrings are really tight, you need to bend your knees a lot, you might want to just slide your blocks or maybe a little hand towel underneath your legs so that you can keep them bent, but have them be supported at the same time. We can also bring the blocks in front of us to support maybe the forehead as we fold forward. So a lot of configurations you can do here with your block. So again, we'll inhale to prepare. As we prepare for 3 minutes hold, exhale and fold forward any amount. Now an option here is to bring your hands behind you and give yourself a little press forward. But I really do like to support the head if possible. So we can stack our blocks. And a chair is a really nice prop to use here in a supported forward fold. So you can straddle your legs on either side of your chair and then fold forward and place your forehead right up against the seat of the chair. And then we notice what the body's feeling once we've reached our edge. Where is that stretch occurring? Is that stretch currently appropriate for our body? Do we need to make adjustments here? And then we bring our awareness to the breath, slowing down each exhalation. And coming back to those principles of Yin Yoga, once we find our edge, we remain still if possible and allow our thoughts to be clear and focusing internally. So our yin poses really do focus on fascia and the connective tissue that surrounds the muscle. So it gets a little bit deeper then a brief held stretch. If our connective tissue is tight, if our fascia is tight, then the muscle has nowhere to go to lengthen. It tends to be bound up into that connective tissue. With 30 seconds remaining, maybe we can sink a little deeper. And breathing a little slower. And 2 more breaths. And take your time to slowly rise. Closing eyes for just a couple of breaths, check in. Allow those sensations to slowly dissipate from the muscles. And then we'll prepare to come onto our backs into a reclined butterfly. So one last hip opener. We can bring our blocks down onto the mat with us as we're bringing the soles of the feet together and then allowing the knees to open up. So really important that you feel comfortable here in this pose. So if you need a little bit of a pillow for your head, you can support the neck, you can support the outsides of the knees, you can even cover yourself up with a blanket. And take your time to roll down onto your back. Allow those knees to open up gently. Softening up through those hips. And this can also be a wonderful way to close your practice in Shavasana, if this feels comfortable for you. And so as we breathe here, I'd like you to bring your awareness to each and every muscle of your body to make sure it's relaxed. And we'll start with the feet. So you should feel the soles of your feet gently touching each other. But the toes are relaxed and you can give them a little wiggle if you'd like first, and then just let them totally relax with no movement. As we move up from the feet, the lower legs are relaxed. The calf muscles and the shins. So we're not using any force to flex our ankles or to point our toes. The ankles and lower legs in a relaxed state. Now bring our awareness up into the upper legs, the fronts of the thighs, the backs of the thighs, the inner thighs and the outer thighs, completely relaxed. With special attention on the inner thighs, as those are the muscles receiving the stretch. And notice your hips. In this open hip pose, they should feel free, without pain, without strain. Notice the glutes, making sure there's no gripping or tensing in the muscles. Then bring your awareness to your abdominals. Just noticing as you breathe in, the belly rises. As you breathe out, the belly falls. Notice your entire torso relaxed and heavy into the mat. From the base of your spine, the sacrum, the pelvis, through the backs of your shoulder blades. And there might be a little space in your lower back as the lumbar spine curves up towards the sky. Notice your arms, both the right arm and the left arm heavy into the mat. If you'd like, you can change the position of your arms for just a moment. Maybe coming into goalpost arms, feeling a different stretch, but allowing those muscles to relax. The biceps, triceps, the forearms, the hands. The fronts and the backs of your shoulders. And then we'll check in with the neck and making sure that the neck is long and the front of the neck is equal to the back of the neck in length, as well as the right and left sides. Notice your head is heavy. Feel the back of the head into your mat. And then bring your awareness to your jaw, making sure that your teeth are not clenched, that you have some separation between the teeth, and the tongue perhaps gently floating to the soft palate. Bring your awareness to your eyes and feel them sinking back into their sockets as if they were weighted. The eyelids heavy and closed. And noticing your forehead, smooth out any fine lines or wrinkles. Allow that space between the eyebrows to be relaxed. And we'll take 2 more breaths here. If you need more time for yourself in meditation, feel free to remain as you are, no rush to rise. Otherwise, preparing for movement, maybe bring some small movement into your fingers and into your toes. And then we'll take a counter position for the legs. So start to close the legs together. Very slowly, you might need your hands to help. And then walk your feet out a little wider toward the outside edges of your mat and allow your knees to drop inward. So we've come from that deep open hip position to closing the knees slightly inward. And we'll take 2 breaths here. And then hug the knees right in towards the chest and press your lower back down. It might have been lifted off the mat during our reclined butterfly. So press it down as you draw those knees in. You can circle the knees a couple of times each direction, or maybe even come into a happy baby pose to press those knees toward the armpits and drop the lower back down into the mat. As you prepare to rise to a seated position, you can roll to your side and press yourself up, or hold behind the thighs and begin to rock the legs forward, rolling on that lower back until you have enough energy to rise all the way up to a seated position. And then we'll come just into a nice, comfortable seated pose, maybe a simple cross-leg pose. And you just wanted to join class today, didn't you? Take a nice deep inhalation. We'll sweep the arms out and up. Press the palms together, and as we exhale, draw your thumbs toward your forehead and close your eyes for a moment. The forehead or the third eye is our area of knowledge and wisdom and understanding. And we pause here for positive thoughts. Then draw your thumbs toward your lips. And we pause here for positive words of encouragement for ourselves and for our loved ones. And we draw our thumbs to our heart center, our area of gratitude, as we express grateful thoughts. And the light and love and joy that resides within me honors the light, the love, and joy in each of you. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining class today. I'll shut off our recording, and I'd love to chat with anyone who has a minute to stay on and see how you're feeling today. Maybe meet a new member. And if not, I'll see you on Friday, everyone, for LisaBug Cardio HIIT.